know whether Mr. Ibambe is online. Mr. Ibambe, can you hear me? Thank you. Okay. So allow me to start with you, because we want to first get an understanding of what is fake news. How can someone listening in without any media skills detect fake news from all the information they receive on their gadgets every second?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be discussing with everyone here about this very important topic. That is, it is very important to me because of maybe the era where we are. Currently, as you have introduced, we are having issues related to the information that people are receiving. To begin with, it is very important to understand maybe what is fake news. It is a very recent or new concept for people maybe who have been practicing journalism. But if you look at maybe the advance of ICT, how people are using social media and what is trending currently, it is a new concept, and it is very critical to deal with, because it is not easy to understand even the concept itself of fake news. We will need maybe to first understand three concepts Johnson was talking about. You will need to understand what is misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation.
Can you maybe also help us understand all those terms you've just mentioned?
Yes, that is where I'm heading to. That's what actually. That's why I introduced the three terms. Talking about misinformation, it is like for information to be misinformation, it is something that is done not intentionally. Like there is no intention to do so. You can just make a mistake, but without any intention. While for the disinformation, it is deliberately done. It's by disinforming people deliberately, where you can have or produce fake news. While malinformation, it is also done deliberately with intention, but it is most of the time done in relation to privacy rights violations. Like there is much more violation of privacy or private life of persons. You are aware of what we call this sex theft, whatever. So it has to do something with private life of people. That's where we have like information.
Yes, Jean-Paul. Okay, I think now it's clear, and some of the issues we highlighted before you came in, either to do with fake news, misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation. But now I want you to tell us to what extent are you worried about these trends today, because we see them happening.
Okay. This is as I started. This is something that is very, very serious. If you look at how we are advancing in terms of using ICTs, like it's almost it is as if almost everyone has access to internet, smartphones, where social media is, and that's where, of course, there is much more fake news. And the critical issue is people do not know how to use, how to consume, how to produce information. Like there is a lack of media literacy, if I can say. Like we do not, we are media illiterate in general. Whether you are educated or not, the general perception is that we are media illiterate. And of course, we have freedom of expression. We have
gadgets or tools to express ourselves, but we do not know that this freedom of expression, or we are not aware now that this freedom of expression has some limits, limitations. It is not an absolute right. So, but am I aware? Is everyone with a mobile phone or who has a Twitter account, Facebook account, aware that there is limitation?
Maybe because you will be back to that. I want to know if you worried when you see the level at which these things are happening.
I'm very and if we do not strategize on the way forward, we are going to have in a crisis where everyone's right is not respected online.
So you're saying you're worried, we should also be worried?
Yes, of course.
Okay, hold it there. Arafat, I want to bring in Gonza on the scene.
Thank you. Number one, disinformation and misinformation is not new. What has happened is that social media, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so what has happened is social media has amplified a few people who are deliberate, want to lie or misinform others. For example, last year there was a very interesting statistics. I had somebody repeating it yesterday on the World Service, and they said that in the United States, more than 60% of COVID disinformation originated from 12 accounts. 12, 1, 2, 3, 12. You see? But those 12 accounts generated so much disinformation that more than 10 million adults in America have refused the COVID vaccine. You see? So what happens is that few people can put out information.
Yes.
I think we've lost Gonza.
Oh, he's back. Hello? Gonza?
Yeah.
Yes, we had lost you.
Mr. Gonza, we've lost you. Maybe Johnson, I think maybe Mr. Ivan can also answer the same question.
If I can hear you, why would it be?
Gonza, please continue.
Yes, I was saying that social media has allowed so few people to send out this information and is amplified to be heard by so many. Number two is that most of the times disinformation thrives because of confirmation bias. Some people think of something or they believe something, then when they get more information, they can believe that this is true, even though the facts may not be very accurate. We can see it on the issue of Miss Rwanda, which I believe many journalists who have covered it and social media activists or influencers have also participated with a lot of defamation without actual facts. It has because of confirmation bias. People believe that somebody, a young girl, beautiful girl, cannot earn something without maybe offering sexual favors and so on. So even though there may be facts here and there, but generalizing it across a cohort of very many girls is part of confirmation bias. So people believe something and they decide this is it. If you get the facts, even though you lie to them or so on, or you manufacture it, it becomes viral and so on. Number three is to do with state actors, people who have to influence marketing, not only state actors, but also businesses and others. They have interest in presenting certain facts and they want them because it makes results. It happens in the political arena, it happens in the conflict. You can see those who are following the war in Ukraine and are seeing how much the information warfare is taking place. Even more significant than even the actual combat on the field, because it determines how societies behave, react, and influence their governments to support which side or which side in the conflict. Then, how does it concern me? Yes, it does not. It concerns me and concerns everybody, because, but also, apart from concerning, it also should not cover the fact that social media or sisters expand free speech provides opportunities in expanding democracy and the democracy. It concerns the constitutional institutions. It creates a lot of biases, creates a lot of distrust,
and so on.
Mr. Gonzague.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzague. Mr. Ibambe has said that if we do not strategize on the way forward, we are heading into a crisis. What do you think that how can we strategize to ensure that at least we revert these the disinformation, the misinformation, and the influencers who are seeking attention everywhere?
First point is that we in Rwanda or in a particular country, it's beyond us to strategize in a way that can influence anything, because social media is international, it's global. This Twitter we are using is based in America. It's controlled by other factors beyond us. So whatever we should say is the main tools that should be available are beyond us. But also, of course, does not remove the fact that we can do something. The main point is preparing our citizenry, creating a good citizenship.
So are you saying that because Twitter is not from Rwanda, we cannot hold accountable people who are spreading disinformation?
No, I'm saying that we are limited. We are limited because you see, Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever, they use algorithms. Those ones can be influenced at the level of the farms on these ones. So you have to, it has to be made by the American government or other significant powers. But yes, we can strategize on our local level. But you see, we should not jump to look at the negative more than at the positive. You see, the social media has given tools. That's why we can hold this conversation with minimum resources instead of traditional media. Hello?
Yes. Can we have Ivan?
Yeah.
How worried are you? How worried are you, Mr. Ivan?
I can hear you.
Are you worried too about the threat?
Thank you. Thank you for the mic. There is some disturbance. I don't know if you guys have mics on. Maybe there's a problem. Anyways, definitely. Thank you very much. First of all, this is actually my first time to speak on Twitter, so it's amazing. Thank you for the invite. Definitely, I'm worried about social media. I mean, about fake news. Like everybody should be worried. But one question that people don't usually ask themselves is who does it really benefit when someone posts something fake? Who is it benefiting and who is it hurting? So, in my understanding of fake news, I know it has hurt people. I'm sure each one of you has probably been fooled once or twice by fake news, whether it was intentional or not. You've definitely had that confirmation bias as Gonza noted out. But the number one people it benefits right now as we speak is unbelievably the people who are supposed to be actually fighting against it, and that is big corporates and government institutions. Now, for example, when it comes to governments all over the world, in this social media frenzy that has enabled fake news to just go viral, instead of disseminating news officially, governments or talking to journalists to explain a certain thing that probably will benefit the society, they will instead prefer to work with. You will find that they will instead prefer to work with fake accounts and unscrupulous influencers, people they basically pay in a small office somewhere to just go mix some truths and some lies, and then they come up with a concocted version of the truth, and then they post it out there on social media. Zero accountability. No one's going to follow up. No one is going to investigate those people simply because everybody knows or they are suspected to be working with government institutions, and therefore they are untouchable. And that information is going to hurt so many people, and it's going to have an effect of lying to people's decision-making processes and everything. And the other,
do you see that happening around us?
Do I see that happening around us? Of course, we don't live in a vacuum. We live in East Africa. Fake news has happened here in Rwanda. It happens literally on a daily basis. If you just go on social media and type Rwanda in there, or a big figure in Rwanda, or a topic of interest, you'll probably find tons and tons of fake news around it, and you'll be shocked if you learn about the accounts that are posting some of that information. The other people that the other people that it benefits, or group of people that it benefits, these are corporates, large corporates, maybe like let me say like telecom companies who just want to mudslinging their competitors, and then you find yourself running in the arms of their competitors simply because you saw a bad post that talks badly about one of your suppliers of things you use. So corporates like to use fake news so much behind closed doors. Of course, it's illegal. You will never find out that they do it, but they do it. They pay off some people to go somewhere in their bedroom or somewhere under the bank, and then they will do it. And the other group that also it benefits are basically politicians. I don't know why I'm always jumping onto governments and politicians, but if you find that, but from what I've realized, it also benefits politicians a lot, because actually politicians are usually the worst when it comes to fake news. When a story comes out and it paints them in a bad light, all they have to say is, this is fake news. They have nothing else to say. This is just fake news. All they have to do, on the other hand, is to actually spread the real fake news about what was happening, either to make themselves look good, or to beat down a journalist who wrote that story, putting up all sorts of fake news about a media organization or a specific journalist or a specific individual or their opponent, just to make sure that they create a bias about that individual. And who does it hurt? We never really ask ourselves beyond, if you see a post and you see it going viral, you're like, okay, it's going viral, but is there any harm in this? At the end of the day, it actually does hurt so many people. Sometimes these are minorities. These are probably the powerless people. Let me say, like women in general. You know, when you post women or minority groups in different individual societies, these are people who usually get hurt by such fake news posts. Even if you see it going viral and you don't understand, just know that someone in the minority group is going to be suffering because of that post. The other thing that it really hurts, that fake news really hurts so much, is democracy in general. Democracy is hard because it influences. Usually, when you see a fake news post and you believe it without any checks, it's going to influence how you vote, how you look at a specific topic in society, so a specific topic or a specific individual in society. So it's going to fool citizens on a wide base. And the other thing, it also divides, and it's also another tool of divide and rule. Politicians, governments will just post some fake news out there, and before you know it, citizens are fighting amongst themselves while the politicians are doing all the looting and power consolidation while people, the majority of people, don't realize what's going on. So the thing is, as individuals or as people, how do we fight it? For governments, they definitely have to put their checks and balances. How do we protect our people against fake news? I don't know. I don't really know how they can do it, because social media is a huge beast that it's really unbelievable. Even the USA, where we can say that they have a strong internet, whatever it's called. They're really finding it very difficult to fight against social fake news, because it also comes with the other burden of if you're fighting fake news, then you're probably going to have to limit freedoms of expression and freedoms of the press. As individuals, we need to you have to make sure that at least you fact check. Google is free. Google is basically a free good. It's a huge library there in front of you, and all you have to do is go to check to verify a story or a post before you post it. It's very, very careless for any individual, even if you've gone to school, even if you have not gone to school, you just see something that you get excited out of your gut and you're just sharing it everywhere. Yep.
If you can help us understand, maybe there are some people who are here and they don't know what you say. Because when you say fact check, what do you mean? For instance, if I see a story that is talking about someone that I know perhaps is not that person, how really, like, can you tell us how to fact check on Google, as you say?
Okay, let me explain shortly. You just asked me a question that sounds like asking someone how do they eat food or how do they sleep at night. Like, how do they fact check? How do they fact check? Like, people use the internet for all sorts of things, all sorts of things. All you have to do is I've seen a post. Arafat is a witch doctor, right? Oh, and is it verified? How do I know that he's a witch doctor? Instead of sharing that post, you go to Google and put Arafat is a witch doctor. If there is a story on a mainstream website or a story somewhere else, or someone else has actually covered it, or you can call Arafat himself and ask him whether he's a witch doctor or not. So the thing is, there is so many steps to verification. First of all is to just go to Google and put in whatever you've read or you've seen. Yeah, so you will probably find it. And if you don't find it, it's most probably fake news. And then we also have sites that are now into fact checking. So you can go on, let me say BBC or The Guardian. They all have fact checking tools and sites where they're just dedicated to big fake news stories, and they're debunking them. And that's something that actually newspapers like the New Times can also do in Rwanda, like have a section just to debunk some fake news and help people understand things better. So I think as individuals, just try to verify, ask, or before you post something that may hurt someone, just go to Google and try to verify. That's all I can say.
To continue, I want to go to Mr. Ibambe. Mr. Ibambe, are you there? Okay, you there. So, Mr. Ibambe, Mr. Ivan has said that the beneficiaries of fake news majority are the corporate people and the government. So, if we have these people as the big beneficiaries of fake news, and yet we are saying how can we uproot it here? What do you think we can do, at least to have people informed with good information and with true information, yet we have a competition from the corporate and the government that also want to have the fake news going viral outside there. So I don't know whether you even you believe in that, what Ivan said.
Yes, he is right. He is right, because if it's not committed not by those two big categories of people, like the corporate, the government, like if fake news is produced by an individual, like an ordinary citizen, now it becomes like a rumor, and spreading rumors is a crime, and of course punishable. So he is right. That's true.
Now I'm saying, how do we compete with the government and the corporate world, which majority are the decision makers, to have people fed with good information, yet these people are also spreading false information?
Fake news is done intentionally. There is intention to do so. There is intention, of course, they have targets. So it is done intentionally. Of course, maybe they want people to believe in something, I mean, in information that is not true, and they do it deliberately. That is why, and of course, that's why we say he has suggested so. There is a need to maybe to focus on fact checking. That's maybe for media practitioners, so that they cannot spread fake news that has been produced or spread by someone intentionally. That is one. But also, media literacy is very important for the ordinary citizen, so that they can understand or know how to check whether information is true or not, whether it is fake news or it is news. Because and as I started, there is always debate that actually there is a confusion with the term itself, fake news. So you're saying it's fake news. Actually, fake news is not news. Because if it is news, then it cannot be fake. Because why? Because news is by definition, it has to be true. It has to reflect the truth, the reality. So fake news, of course, it is something that is fake. That is appearing as it is news, but that is fake. But it is fake. So if it is false, let me say so, it can't be news. So from even the concept, there is a confusion, and of course that's why we need, maybe, I don't know how this concept of fake news came, but maybe we should be maybe discussing these issues as misinformation, malinformation. Yeah, because if you're saying that's fake news, how come news can be fake? Because if it's fake, it cannot be news. Yeah.
Yes, Ibambe, what you're basically saying is we need to fix the two things: media journalists to fact check and address issues around the media literacy. You've been a keen observer of the media sector ever since, I don't know, so many years ago, and up to today, where you are, you see, you assess, and you can easily do analysis on what the media and the journalists do. Do you think journalists and the media are doing a good job in this fight?
I do appreciate if we have media practitioners on these discussions, but let us be frank. To be honest, there are few who are trying to do their best. Of course, I know this discussion was organized by media practitioners. That this is a good example, maybe your work just to deal with this issue. But generally, or a big majority of media practitioners, they are not. They are also spreading fake news, or maybe they are ignorant, or maybe there is issue to do with laziness, so that they do not really practice fact checking. They sometimes find themselves committing some mistakes or spreading this fake news. Okay, they are not maybe the ones who are creating or generating this false or fake news, but we always find some who are spreading fake news that has been produced by other people. That means maybe they are not, I don't know if they are not aware on how they can check their facts before spreading, because as media practitioners, their work is just to spread, to inform the people, to spread the news. So I don't know if they do not verify because of they do not maybe have means, or they are not aware of how they can check on the facts, or if they do it deliberately. But there are, I mean, in general, we are still having issues. We see few of you guys who are trying to join the fight against this issue of fake news, but there is a very big number of media practitioners who are also spreading fake news. Before maybe I joined the institution, the Legal Aid Forum, where I work now, before I was working for the Rwanda Media Commission, we were always receiving complaints related to fake news or spread of fake news. Some media practitioners were just publishing information without verifying whether it is true or not, and that is the primary duty of media practitioners. Because and that's why I introduced the concept of news and how news it is supposed to be true. The first thing a journalist or media practitioners can do is to verify whether what he is going to publish is true. If it is not true, he or she might abstain from publishing that one until verification. And of course, for media practitioners, they have to be very cautious, because by publishing fake news, they can commit offenses. We still have media offenses within our laws, so they can be liable of committing crime or media offense. That's by publishing fake news.
Yeah, thank you so much. Alafat, I think we can bring in Chris. Chris, they are pointing fingers on us. Some of us, of course. What do you have to say?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. We've been hearing. Yeah, thank you for this interesting conversation. Fake news says misinformation, disinformation is a big problem for not only media but also for the public. Yeah, because it misleads. Any information that misleads it not serve what media should be serving to the public.
We want you to be specific. Are journalists, media doing a good job in this fight, in your view?
Yes and not. I explain. Yes, because we do the best of what we can. No, because we don't have that much sufficient skills to debunk misinformation. No, we do not debunk them because we don't want to do so, but because we use the capability, the skills that we have. What I wanted to oppose is that the misinformation is always spread by the government or public institutions. I do not agree. Yes, yes, propaganda is real, but also
if I can defend someone,
but
Ivan did not say that. He said majority, or he even didn't say majority. He said it benefits the government and some corporate institutions, but he didn't say that they are the ones who does it only.
Okay, thank you for being specific on that. Yes, if the majority is from those corporate and government, journalists should be coming in debunking the information, because always the public citizen believe in whatever published by the government. But also, I don't think so. I don't think that if the government split that kind of information, they don't know flow through official government channels. They use other strategies to split them. So journalists should be coming in and helping the journalists to have to have the facts about them. Well, I have seen some examples of in Kenya. I have seen Africa Check fact checking the speech of a minister because all of the statistics, all of the figures that the minister has expressed in the speech was not really real, was not correct. So we don't have to swallow everything we got, even from official, but we need also to go deeper. Check if what they say are, if they are facts, if they are facts that are from what they say. So what we need, just to be much more skilled in fact checking. That's where also investigative journalism comes in. We need to go beyond what we are told and go search what you can see, what the public can see, so that we reveal it. To bring what people need to know, not what to know, if you understand well.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Let me go to Mr. Ivan. Traditional media gatekeepers are less effective or visible today. What is your take on the fact that traditional news organizations these days lack the institutional authority they once enjoyed of gatekeeping? Because, Ivan, we see some journalists who are working for traditional media, but at the other side, they are also, they take themselves as influencers who can even go public and maybe put out adverts on their accounts that are misleading, and then tomorrow they go back in the newsroom, they do their stories, or they take the badge as their journalists and all that. What do you think can be done?
First of all, if I respond to you, I want to clarify. I think Christopher didn't really listen to me very well. I didn't say that governments are responsible. I didn't say they are the only ones who are responsible. Okay, I hope you heard that very well. I was giving examples of who fake news benefits most. And I broke it down into governments, I broke it down to corporates, I broke it down to politicians, I broke it down to even individuals. Arafat, what you're saying about social media influencers, we have a couple of them probably here on this forum, but I think that the two should be separated. I don't want to say that social media influencers are in any way linked to fake news. It's as much as saying that journalists are also to blame, or that or that politicians are to blame, because all of us have a stake. It's not just social media. It's not just influencers. Influencers do have a role. I think what you want to ask is whether it's okay, whether it's even ethical for journalists to become social media influencers. That's something that's different from the topic we have today. Maybe you can have that another day.
Ivan, what I was trying to say is, do you think that a journalist who is working for a traditional media out here should be liable for any misinformation that might be put out there on their account by their bosses from the traditional media they are working for?
Of course they should. If you as a journalist doubling as a social media influencer puts out information well knowing that it's fake, but because you are paid for it as a social media influencer, and then you put it out there, you don't have any say as a journalist. I don't think you are a professional journalist if you do that, and you probably will justify it by saying that this was a gig, I was paid for this. This is my social media account. It does not represent my workplace or anything. But still, as journalists, we have our bylines to protect, and people see what we post there, and then they actually assume that whatever we say must be correct. Our opinions are really, really limited. That's something I've realized as a journalist. You have to always, everything you say, or even any topic you discuss, even anything you post, you have to make sure it's void of fake news. Otherwise, whether you are paid for it or not, I'm not trying to say that people shouldn't be paid for influencing, but even in influencing, it's unethical for you to post something that is a lie simply because you're being paid for it. So I think even in influencing, there is some yardstick that they use to make sure that you can praise a company or praise an individual or a product without really lying about it. I think it's just unethical. That's what I'm saying. Whether it's a journalist doing it or someone else, it's just unethical.
Arafat, is Gonza still with us?
Yes, I told you that Gonza came back. I gave him the mic, but he didn't speak. He didn't pick the mic, sorry. But maybe let's hope that he's coming back.
Yes, then I wish to hear from Mr. Ibambe again on where Ivan has just left off. He was talking of ethical issues around journalists who double up as influencers. Mr. Ibambe, why do I seem to believe that we have gaps at the side of the regulator? We wonder if you don't think there are issues that need to be addressed, or maybe changes that are needed in terms of laws and ethics to reflect some of the changes that have happened over the past few years. The social media, the internet, the YouTube, and all of these things. It seems the laws and ethical standards that we have don't reflect some of these changes. What do you have to say?
Thank you. I think it is because of two reasons that I will explain. The first one being that, as Gonza said, fake news is not something that is not new, but maybe the ICT, advancement of ICT has amplified it. So by the time people were codifying the laws we have today, the way social media, internet media, ICT was used it was like it is nowadays. So there is we need maybe to rework on our laws, our regulation, because the advance of the ICT. That is one. Second, maybe, or that is true, maybe we're still having issues of effectiveness of the framework, or yes, the regulatory framework we have today. I said that I will explain those two issues. So on this second one, like if you talk about the effectiveness, like for example, our media is regulating itself, and through Rwanda Media Commission, the Media Safe Regulatory Body, that is mandated as per the media law of 2013 to regulate the daily functioning of the media and the conduct of journalists. But you will find whether through the code of ethics, from the code of ethics, there is nothing to do with social media, the conduct of journalists publishing something online, on social media, on his personal account on social media. As Ivan talked about that one. So he was mentioning these social media influencers. So we wonder whether a journalist can be a social media influencer. So if you're becoming a social media influencer, now you're becoming like a public relation kind of like person. And of course, these things we do not have them from the kind of code of ethics. Recently, we conducted an assessment on status of freedom of expression and access to information, and another one on the status of self-regulation, since Rwanda is having self-regulation of the media. So one of the findings was that whether in the laws, code of ethics, have nothing to do with regulation of social media. And currently we were discussing about the way to, how can we go about. So some are for, maybe we need to have like special regulation for social media. Others they're saying, no, there's no need of regulating social media. Maybe we can focus on media literacy, whatever. So we can discuss all about that issues. Then we'll comment maybe the best way to go about, so that we preserve the principle of the right to freedom of expression. So talking about the laws we have, by the time the laws we have were being promulgated, to be honest, some few of us have had maybe Facebook or Twitter accounts, for example. So that can be an example. Now, for example, now we are currently, the government of Rwanda is having Connect Rwanda campaign, like at least, so that to make sure that every Rwandan has access to internet, to smartphone, whatever. So if we are distributing gadgets, if we are distributing internet, if we are making people access social media, and we don't have one of the findings from the findings I was talking, the research I was talking about, is that social media is not regulated. It's among the sectors that are not regulated. Okay, I'm not saying that the regulation of social media is needed, for example, but if we are not safeguarding, so that maybe fake news that we are talking about now, if it is appearing and there are no proper mechanism to deal with misinformation, we are going to have problems with our population, because someone will spread fake news, and those people out there, they do not understand that we are still having, struggling with media practitioners who maybe did the journalism, we were saying they are not able to verify information, to do fact verification. So what do you think is going to happen to the Mukechu over there in the village?
I get it, Mr. Ibambe, but so what you're basically saying is the issues we are talking about, and more specifically to do with the media, is related to the legal vacuum that we have in terms of laws and ethics for journalists and the media houses.
To review our laws, we need to review the code of ethics for the media practitioners. We need to put in place policies that will really respond to the issues or trending issues that they may come with advance of the ICT. Also, we will need to reform maybe our institutions so that the regulation of media is effective, so that we can deal with any harm that may come.
Yeah, Gonza isn't here, unfortunately, but we'll have to bring in a contrary view, because I'm sure he would disagree with you. That control that you're talking about is of the view that infringes on freedoms of expression.
Yeah, yes, I understand. I understand, because when we talk about regulation, some people, or in one or another way, you can understand by limitation. But it's all about maybe putting things on balance. Then you balance the consequences of having regulation and the consequences of not having regulation. Because what are going to be harm? What we agree on is whether it's Gonza or any other person, from Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19 of the ICCPR, all those, they impose some limitation to the freedom of expression. So freedom of expression is not an absolute right. So limitation is allowed. So what is it needs to have? You may have to make sure that it is justifiable, like it is needed. Second, it has to be legal, like provided within the laws, and of course proportional, like do not pose some limitations that are not proportional to the right of freedom of expression itself. So there is a way you can put in place regulation, and you let people regulate it. So there is no country that do not have like a media law regulating media. So you are going to say that we are not free because we have the law regulating media in Rwanda? No. So I'm worried about the consequences that might come because we do not have proper or effective regulation of media. This is not an absolute right. There are some limitations from international framework.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ibambe. Arafat, is Mr. Gonza around? Seems we don't have him here.
We don't have him here, but
because could you give the mic to Mr. Moses Gahigi? I see Moses here, or James. Any one of these colleagues might give us some important insights, especially when we talk of regulating and controlling, and whether that should be seen as infringing on freedoms of expression. I don't know.
Yes, Mr. Moses, I'm sending you a mic. If you really, Moses, can you pick the mic? We will elevate you as a speaker. Have you received the notification? By the way, I even don't know whether he's free to speak. Maybe, let's see.
Yeah, just to send the request. You can send to Mr. James as well, because these guys are resourceful. They can help us understand one or two things. Do you have someone?
Hello, good evening, guys. Am I clear?
Yes, James, welcome.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to us.
Yeah, I joined in the last. I just joined 3-4 minutes a year ago, but I think I had met Ibambe. I had his submission, at least part of his contribution.
Yeah, you can build on that and share with us.
Okay. Well, I think it's gonna be. It's not as simple as we might think to regulate the future of the media. Now we are talking of social media today as we know it, but what happens in the next 20 years, 50 years, nobody knows. So I think the traditional ways are going to have to, at some point, succumb to these disruptions. That's a reality. You can only regulate so much, but I think it is in the interest of societies and in the interest of, obviously, the media, the mainstream media as we have known it, governments, obviously, to try to what do I call it, to promote media literacy among its people, so that people don't get so easily swayed by anything and anyone so easily. But as for professionalism of the media, as we have known it for so many years, for so many decades, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to change. Now we're talking of, I think I heard you talk of influencers and social media influencers. I think, we like it or not, these are going to be the future of what we call the media today. In fact, they are going to be so influential, so much that they are going to occupy the space that the mainstream or legacy media today occupies. In some countries,
isn't that problematic?
You can say it is problematic, but that is the reality, and that's what disruption is about. Going forward, you're going to be in a situation where individuals are going to be more powerful than media houses. And I think we're already seeing it. And audiences are more comfortable, are going to be increasingly more comfortable following and trusting individual journalists or social media influencers as opposed to institutions.
James, the situation we have today as we speak is that we have these influencers who are interacting. Some of them are even double up as journalists, working for media houses or independent journalists. All they do is, it is currently hard to tell what the motives behind the content they share. You can't tell if the content is paid for. When it is paid for, they never say it. Basically, what you're saying is they will grow even bigger.
They are going to get even more clout and grow a bigger following, and they are going to leave the media houses that they're working for today, and they are going to grow as the media houses they're working for today shrink and gradually and eventually disappear. And this is again my personal, but there are figures. If you look at I think there was a recent report that was showing that the global influencer market generates around $550 billion. That's quite substantial. And it is one of the fastest growing markets globally. And it is just starting. So I think it's going to get a point where even media house firing a journalist who is a social media influencer is going to be more costly than retaining that journalist, even as they may be having issues with these journalists. And this is the reality. So I think regulatory bodies, I think mainstream or legacy media houses, governments, and all the other players will need to adapt so fast and embrace these disruptions and try to influence what is happening in their favor, sway it in their favor for only so long, because things will eventually be increasingly harder to regulate. That is the reality going forward. Again, if you ask
James, we don't have any issue. We do not have any issue with anyone becoming an influencer or whatever it is. The issue is, how do we make sure that fake news doesn't flourish? How then is that a projection? How do we...
I think journalists, professional journalists, so to speak, and media houses need to adapt. They need, one, to know why is it that a social media influencer who just mushroomed a month or two or a year or two is garnering this very influence, this very huge support or following, is mastering this following. What is it that people are looking for? Now, I'm not saying that the media houses should be necessarily doing the same, but they must be able to live, I think, to move from their comfort zones, understand audience preferences, tastes, what do young people want to read, what do young readers want to consume, whether through the television or radio or online content. What is it that they are looking for that these influencers are actually providing and they are not providing? Yeah. So, and then you can bring in issues of ethics and all this, but then once you need increasingly to take care of these concerns that are legit, because the terrain has changed. Increasingly, people want to relate with individuals, and by individuals also you look at individual journalists as opposed to relating with institutions, because individuals will prompt engagement, feedback. That's why you see big companies, even beyond Rwanda, increasingly preferring to work with the individual social media influencers, as opposed to working with established media organizations, because of that feedback, the individual connections, the engagements that the individual influencers will generate, as opposed to institutions. So I think the issue is much bigger than sitting around a table and say, okay, how do we now stop the influence of influencers? That one is not possible. But we can only, I think, make use of these disruptions and try to embrace whatever changes are coming, influence them positively, try to understand what people want to read, what people want to listen to, what people want to view, and why. If there are issues of media literacy, then we invest in education. If it's about the certain content they are looking for, then look for that content and provide it to them, yes, professionally, so that you can increasingly, as far as you can go as media people, retain a level of positive influence in society.
My question to Mr. James is that I'm asking, what happens when you see that someone who is working for a traditional media like radio, TV, or a newspaper is also working as an influencer who sometimes even spreads false information? Won't that be a problem? What do you, as an editor, what do you do if someone is doing that and is coming at work, does a story, a factual story based on facts, and at the end of it, After that, the next week he's doing he's like an influencer, and he's spreading information that you think is based on ethics of journalism. What do you think should be done to such people?
Now, obviously, 100% I'm in for people doing responsible journalism and positively influencing society. But you're going to have such people anyway in any situation. We had these people in print media context, which is now archaic, particularly in our situation here. We have had those kind of people during this transition of online fast mindset towards that mindset honest. And obviously these people will continue to be there even in the dispensation of multimedia and social media and whatever future that lies ahead for the media. So what matters for me is for people to insist to invest in things that would counter such actions, but obviously tending towards what are the emerging realities, what are the needs in the market there that we need to fulfill. And I think this will always be there. If you spend a lot of effort fighting people who are getting it or doing it wrong, then you miss an opportunity to do it right and to influence society positively. So for me, I think the focus should really be more on how do we leverage these platforms, how do we embrace these platforms, how do we migrate, how do we move into this new dispensation with the good old ethical practices, so that we can influence society going forward in a positive way. I don't know. I have no answer. Some of these questions, I don't think anybody has an answer to them because we don't know what lies ahead. But what I can tell you is that increasingly the media is going to revolve around individuals or media owners working with individuals to move forward, as opposed to say, no, I'm an owner, I want to run things like this. I'm kicking out everybody who wants to grow the company, who wants to be bigger than the company. I think that's not sustainable.
Thank you, James. Arafat, since Jackie Lumbasi hasn't returned, I think I was of the view that if Sylvie could chip in, because we really need to see how some of these issues, fake news, misinformation, and these other stuff are affecting women in particular. If you could talk to her, I see her on this platform. Most welcome, Sylvie. And in the meantime, Ivan can come in and give us his take as we go forward. I see Andrew also seeking to talk to us. Ivan, from what James is saying, these are issues that are not going to be addressed by just the control and the regulation. He's saying we should embrace change, and then later on we can talk about ethics and everything. What do you have to say, Ivan? Seems Ivan is not around his phone. Maybe we can bring in Andrew as we find Sylvie.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for these insights. I mean, a very rich discussion ongoing. I just wanted to submit in something that we maybe been skipping. Basically, if we look at how trends have gone, how trends are coming, even to modernity, I think media personnel and media organization, we fall prey to fake news because I think mainly it is an era of we are in an era of breaking news. That is a vice. We have seen everybody, in fact, the general public, people want to break news, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. So due to that system, that vice of breaking news, we want to be the people with first-hand information. We have ended up falling prey to fake news. So fact-checking, we feel it would delay someone, and there would be a step back into breaking. That is where most media personnel, journalists, even influencers themselves, and the general public are falling prey. I know it hurts, but to a real journalist, if you'll have to get away from breaking news, it means you'll have to go fact check. You will take your time and bring something that is detailed and something that has real insight and in-depth maybe analysis. So me personally, I think I used to be that person who wants to break the news, but I stepped aside because at the end of the day, the cost that it comes with it, if it turns out that you are posting something fake, it has a cost to it. It has a repercussion. You don't want to be that person who personally, as social media, as somebody who is on social media, there are accounts that have even muted, to be honest, because they are ever spreading hate or fake news, seriously. People who you will turn on their timelines and it's about fake news. They really have to, they're just jumping on the trail, which I believe is bad. So that's what I had to submit. Thank you.
Andrew, Chris was speaking earlier and he was pointing to issues around capacity and skills for journalists and for media practitioners as one of the barriers that we still have when it comes to attempting to fight against the fake news and misinformation spread and the likes. From where you are, do you see this as a challenge?
I think there's still a challenge. How many media houses have that time? I think there's still a gap, I think. And I think regulators should really do some analysis on that. I don't know whether we have media houses that are doing that on a regular basis to really provide skills to journalists, to newsrooms. Not many, honestly. In this fast-paced environment, it's quite harder to find media houses keeping journalists into that spirit. It's quite harder. Then I think also there should be an outreach towards society, as Mr. Munyaneza also put it out. It's in the interest of governments really put it out, not only to media houses, but also to the general public to be keen as they put out bomb terrorist alerts. That's the same way they should really caution public towards just being straight, being lured into fake news. Because in this era of blogging, influencing, breaking news, there's what they call clickbait. Would like to heading to be clicked. You have seen the big heading and it's very misleading because we want the clicks and views. We have seen it on YouTube. But I think public is learning harder.
Andrew, you're breaking, we can't hear you.
I can see Christopher wants to say something. Christopher, can you say something maybe? Andrew,
yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. I want to comment on the skills that I mentioned earlier. I didn't mean that journalists are not professionally trained or skilled. Yeah, but as technology is bringing new tools, new things daily. Excuse me. Journalists have to update themselves timely. Yeah, even your device, when a new version comes, you have to update. Why? Because something new is there with new features. And when you were at a journalism school, you did not knew about that. So that's why journalists, even though are academically trained, as they work, they need some, I can call it refresher, some refresher training, just to upgrade themselves to new challenges that are coming in with technology. So, concluding on this, urging all journalists and even everyone on this space, even members of the public, yeah, verification is the golden tool. If you see information coming in on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Twitter, please be skeptical. Do not swallow as it is. Make sure that it's true. If you think it's not, if you doubt about it, you try to ask anyone who you think may know it. If you are not able, please Google it and see if there is a mainstreaming media that has published about it. If you are not unable to verify, to get the fact about it, please leave it. Do not forward. Do not post it. Please leave it. In that case, you play a role in breaking the chain of fake news and misinformation. And that is a golden, that's a great role that you will be playing just in mitigating the impact or the effect that information may cause to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I saw Mr. James raising up his hand. Mr. James, you wanted to comment on what Chris said or something else?
Yeah, quickly, because I want to try to I wanted to comment on, I think, was it Andrew who talked of breaking news? I think there is going to, I think it is going to be hard for any journalist to claim an upper hand in this context as far when it comes to breaking news. If you look at the news that has broken, stated that way over the last couple of weeks in Rwanda, where is it broken? In most cases, you find that it's going to be broken by the newspapers.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
There's some disturbance in your microphone.
You can't hear me still now? And,
some noise around.
I think I may be moving a bit away. So what I was trying to say, I'm saying it's going to be very difficult for any journalist to claim to have an upper hand in terms of breaking news. And I was saying, if you look at the most important news elements that are broken in Rwanda over the last few weeks, how many have been broken by media houses? Yeah, and this used not to be the case. Media houses used to break the stories, the big stories. But these days, newsmakers will actually break the stories themselves using the same platforms that we're talking about. In this case, using Twitter. it's going to be announcing something. It's going to be the yellow paper from, Prime Minister's office. They have broken the news themselves. By the time the media houses see this news, it's the same time everybody literally on Twitter is going to see this news as well. So I think for the media, our challenge is now to go beyond breaking and accept that one is increasingly slipping away from our grip, and maybe start to look at things to do with enriching further, this making sense of this kind of content, which a casual, ordinary Twitter user may not do, but maybe that's a silver lining, I think, for people in the media, that they can still make themselves relevant if they try to look at that, going a bit deeper than just talking of breaking, because there's nothing like breaking in the real sense of what used to be used to call breaking. The other aspect, I think, is that I think somebody commented on what I said earlier, confusing, I think, saying that there's confusion between influencing and journalism. And I'm saying increasingly, journalism is going to be individual-centered, like it or not. The individual journalists who are at the same time serving as influencers. Okay, just to give you an example, if Ivan, just to use Ivan as an example, is working for media house A, the media house writes, posts something written by Ivan, and then Ivan picks it, posts the same content. Chances are that Ivan's tweet, Ivan's only post is going to attract more engagement as opposed to his publication. Now, at the moment, it may not necessarily be the case, but increasingly, individual posts from people who you want to call influencers or whatever name you give them, they are going to take over what you are calling mainstream. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say. Mr.
James, you've insisted that the influencers are going to take over next time. They won't take over the traditional media. Yes, maybe.
Increasingly, in fact, the thing is that they are going even to traditional media, as you have known it, is actually dying. Some have died. And and the people we are calling influencers or whatever you want to call them will eventually take over. They'll be the ones to buy these media houses. They're the ones to buy and close them. That is the future.
So your advice to media owners here, what is it? It seems like they should also go back and start farming. Is it what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying. I think what I'm suggesting is that they need to embrace change. They need to not sit back and complain about influencers and say, bring laws to do ABCD, because that's not going to be sustainable. I think what they need to do is, one, like I said earlier, we need to understand consumer trends, especially what young people want, and then we respond to those needs and try to be as relevant as we can possibly be.
So, Ivan, you want to say something before we go to Nsanga?
Yes.
Go to Sylvie.
I want to strongly disagree with James. Traditional media might be suffering definitely in the face of the internet and in the face of social media. It's definitely struggling, but there is no way. I do not see a future in which social media influencers or advertising, internet advertising, is going to take over the space in which you and I, as journalists, are supposed to be operating. That is like not understanding the role the media plays in society. Even if I know media owners definitely look at several interests, including profitability, but at the end of the day, social media influencers have have a channel. They have a clientele they are looking forward to, while we also as journalists also have a clientele we look forward to. These people are going to still be investing in traditional journalism, in mainstream journalism, to report, to investigate stories, and that is something a social media influencer will never do. They will probably be out there just promoting whoever we investigate or whoever we don't investigate. I don't know, but there is definitely a role for traditional media, regardless of whichever society in the future we look at vis-a-vis social media influencing. So definitely they have taken away a small chunk of revenue from the media, but I do not think that.
Johnson, can I make my final submission very briefly? It's related to what Ivan just mentioned. I'm not saying that the media is necessarily going to die. The whole of the media as we have known it, mainstream media necessarily. I said those that will adapt have a chance to remain relevant, to make sense of things that are happening. And then already we have the mainstream media has lost a huge chunk of the audiences, but there is an opportunity to be more, to have specific targeted niches. So if you are doing a certain, if your target audience is a certain niche, let's say business, let's say sport, let's say whatever niche you have chosen, then you're going to create a loyal sort of following, a loyal group of audience that will always be there, that are going to be there for you for as long as maybe for the foreseeable future. But then beyond that, I'm not so sure. And I wish I'm wrong. You know that I very much agree with you that the media has very important role.
Moses, can we have let's have Sylvie, then after we'll have you, Moses. Is that okay?
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay. So, Sylvie, can you go on? To you specifically yourself, are you concerned about fake news, or have you seen it happening, or have you had an impact from fake news? Has it impacted you? Actually, what do you have to say about that, and especially on what has been happening recently, Miss Rwanda saga and many other things? So,
thank you very much, Arafa. I think surprised me by asking me to talk about this topic, but yes, I will tackle it from another angle. For me, it's more about what I see as a certain level of laziness, which I can call also intellectual dishonesty, where in general you see people like, let me start by journalists, because I think I entered in this space when you were talking about journalists. Even now, if I go in how many articles which came today, you will see there was no really effort of that journalist in kind of referencing, or so journalists sometimes are talking like us. You know me, if I talk like in a street. I'm not a journalist, so I may hear something in the street in the back and I come and talk about it. But a journalist who goes and publish either a tweet or write an article, for me, I feel it's another layer which is needed of control, not controlling, but making sure that, okay, I'm writing about this news, but let me give myself some time to search what others have said about this topic. How can I try to put a parallelism between Rwanda, maybe, or sub-Saharan Africa, or other countries, rich and poor, something like that. For me, I see that laziness from so many articles written here in Rwanda, where I think a journalist need to back up his information. There is another thing of plagiarism I'm seeing every time when I read news articles where we see someone saying things someone else said without referencing. It kind of means this person took copy and paste, because there are some statements, not even journalists only, but in generally, you will see in some different documents, people copying and paste. So for me, when I see that, maybe people think if they say where they got this news, people will laugh at them, yet it's a strength you to not start from zero. Read what others have done, because we are not really coming to reinvent in so many things. So that was first thing I wanted to say, that from the journalist side, we really need to see some disruptive articles, not things we can talk about in the cafe. It means journalists have to really document themselves whenever they want to write an article. They need to back up. There are even some journalists who talks about data, and data, it's really something sensitive. When you say a certain number, at least you need to put a reference on that. And I have faced it in my different assignment, where you see even consultant, when they bring you a document and you try to check, to go deep, you will find this consultant just sat and copy pasting different either strategies, policies. So this is a trend. It has become like a culture, which I would really encourage people to give themselves some time of doing research and back up what they are bringing. So for us to have something, because for example, if you're writing on malaria or something like that, your reader who's another person who doesn't have either time or who's not an expert in that subject will really wish to know, okay, this person wrote an article on malaria, but I need to understand how far have we come, maybe for 1 year, how far COVID has affected it, so that you bring an analysis, which is really important, more than the news meow here in the road. I don't know if you understand me. So second thing on influencer, there are countries which have been progressive. It means when an influencer is paid to advertise like anything, has to really tell people that I'm doing this for money. They need to put a difference between their journalistic work, if you work for a certain media, and that work, because journalists are people normally we should trust, because they are bringing us news to a picture. So I think it's really honest for any influencer to say if it's a paid advert, if it's because we have failed to differentiate even their own opinion, their commercial things, and what their journalistic thing says about that. So it means, again, I have failed to see speciality in journalists. It means if you want to focus on certain fields, is it technology, is it health, is it name, I think we need those specialties which will help people to be more honest in what they are writing, because they understand. You don't just write about any article you don't understand, but maybe the culture is that they are also generalists, like they can do anything. Like some, when we go to doctors, some are specialists. And so coming now to a subject really I don't want to talk about Miss Rwanda, because for me I saw everyone made himself a journalist, everyone made himself an organizer of Miss Rwanda, everyone could bring a news from here and here and here. So it was really what I can call fake news, because if you don't have some fact, if you don't have there is a way you can say something and maybe do a disclaimer saying I don't have proof for this, but this is what I had, something like that. For me, in any case, I feel a journalist need to be different. For me, a tweet is a personal thing, or you tweet it, but it needs to be backed up. Let's learn to back up our data so that we don't say you are bringing fake news. When you don't, sometimes the journalists, when I'm reading news, I will call myself, say, this data turns, let me go in our statistics books and wherever. You will find it totally different. You will find maybe as a data 10 years, 5 years before that. That is, for me, I call it fake news. I don't know at which level we are going now. Maybe I entered when you finish. What is fake news? Characteristic of fake news, I don't know really how it is. But for me, I take it, if you bring for me, you say, Rwanda has abantu bari gupfa na malaria, urazanye bari gupfa na malaria mu 2005 byarafugiye. You are a journalist, you are not like me. It means you are bringing me news. Where did you get it? Did you even have, because you guys have the privilege. Journalist no muntu ukomanga ahantu hose naho banze kumufungurira njya mbona bamwe mu bivuga. It means you have the privilege and the power yo kugenda gushaka les infos kuri source. So let's really twikubita agashi abajournaliste batuzanira inkuru none se tujya tubura inkuru ute abajournaliste tuzi ko bahari nabo baba babaye nkatwe bo kuvuga inkuru zo ku muhanda. That is what I wanted to talk about, the laziness I'm seeing which is pushing people to give fake news, that rushing, I want to be the first to share this news, breaking news. So if you don't have, you can say you had, or you do a disclaimer article. That laziness and that dishonesty isn't really something professional, and that is pushing us to be fake. So
that's very great. That's very great, Sylvie. So you are saying laziness is the cause of fake news in Rwanda, and you're saying there's no difference between an influencer and a journalist. Moses, you can come in. Moses, perhaps you listening to what we said. You can just.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this time. Hope I'm heard. Hope you guys are hearing me.
Sure, we are hearing this here.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I want to tackle a few things. I've had the previous speakers, my colleague James and others, talking about different, mixing a few things here and there. My understanding of journalism, which I've practiced for some years now, it's a profession that occupies a pure and unadulterated space that does checks and balances, that stands on a platform that gives truth to the public. Like the previous speaker said, the public trusts and rests its trust on the journalist to give information, to inform them, to educate them, and to and to be the voice that is trusted. Now, it's completely different from the space an influencer should occupy. An influencer comes from the world of advertisement, from the world of public relations, from that world. That's a completely different world. So when we see a journalist crossing over to stand to churn out content that is influencer based, or giving mileage for these corporate entities or different projects. Now, that comes from, in my view, it comes from a dilemma we've had over the last few years of journalists who become celebrities, journalists who become superstars. Now, what actually makes these journalists gain popularity and a huge following? Mostly it comes from the space they've occupied as journalists. The public has trusted them and followed them across different platforms of social media, and really because they want to continue listening to them, not only from their publications, but even across their social media platforms. Now, when the same journalist who has been trusted by the public and followed by the public comes up to harvest this following by again feeding them on influencer leaning content, giving mileage to these corporate entities and doing marketing and advertisement to the same entities you're supposed to do checks and balances for, the same entities you're supposed to be asking tough questions. That beats my logic. I have never understood the logic of journalists standing and doing influencer work, because at the core of the journalist, it's wrong. So, of course, I'm not saying journalists shouldn't be celebrities or who shouldn't have a huge following, but draw a distinction. Journalism is that sacred. If anyone can understand that space, it's okay to actually, because if, like Munyaneza was saying earlier, that of course, influencer market is generating a lot of money for individuals and all. It's okay to relinquish your responsibilities as a journalist and cross over and be an influencer. That is okay, and actually do it. But you got this popularity from being a journalist, and now you're harvesting it for influencer, and that's wrong. Now, talking about fake news, Of course, fake news is...
Before you go away from that, I want to ask you something. So, are you saying that if you've decided to be an influencer, remain an influencer? If you've decided to go to do professional journalism, but when you are influencing, don't intend to be a journalist.
It's totally. And by the way, you can also influence your people, your audiences by giving more in-depth or in-depth information about the news cycles, the news as different as events unfold. Create your space as someone. I know journalists could be, of course, trying to milk every opportunity they get to earn a living here and there. But I think at the core of it, this is not it's not a place of it is betrayal. In my view, I look at it as betrayal. You're betraying the public. You're betraying the very people who followed you in the first place. So I think drawing a distinction is okay. Sylvie said that you can, when you're churning out influencer-leaning content, put a disclaimer that this is paid for. Yeah, maybe that can serve for someone who can't really completely choose where they want to stand. But it's also not really solving the entire problem. At the core, you need to be a journalist, and because as a journalist, MTN is going to be fleecing of money of its people across its platforms. You can't write an article that that unearths the different ways MTN is fleecing people, and MTN is not doing what it's supposed to do. You can't write an article, yet the previous week you were churning out, you are promoting the influencer or marketing leaning content. No, it can't work like that. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. But as I conclude, talking about fake news, of course, there is that obsession which I really find disturbing, the obsession for breaking news, to break the news. But in my view, as a journalist, news will always be broken. It will be broken by the people who are making these announcements. It will be broken by individuals. We are seeing the rise in citizen journalism. So people have the power to break news now. So, but I think our obsession as journalists should be on the response to news. If we bring out what does the news that has broken, what does it mean? Interpret it for people. Analyze it from different standpoints. That's the response to news that the public will benefit more from. What does it mean for the layman, for the Muturaji in Ngororero? What does that mean? So I think that's what should be our obsession, as opposed to breaking news. I really get disgusted by. I'm not. I think I'm the way I do my thing. I don't really use my platforms for all that. Maybe I have a different way of using my social media platforms, but I think response to news should take our time more than breaking news, and that's where we even fall into the trap of sharing fake news that is not verified, that is not fact checked. Yet there is more that we can do to give value to our leaders, to our followers. But yeah, that's what I wanted to share for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Moses, for listening. And actually wanted to go to Mr. Ibambe. Mr. Ibambe, are you there?
Before you go to Ibambe, can I kindly disagree with a little bit with Just in,
Okay,
in
okay.
one sentence. Okay, Sylvie gave some.
Yes, Moses?
Sorry. Can you hear me now? It's Ivan,
yes,
not Moses. So,
yes,
Sylvie mentioned two things, and of course, two things that have caught my attention. The fact that laziness in journalism leads to a lot of fake news being created. Partly correct, but also partly a bit misleading. And the fact that that media houses also, as we speak right now, there is not a lot of pressure being pushed on any other institution anywhere other than on the media, other than on journalism and media when it comes to fake news. Yet when fake news is being disseminated, if you look around the world, the main culprits are actually not mainstream media, because mainstream media, the reason they're not the biggest purveyors of fake news is because they do have an obligation of sending out corrections, verifying information, and if they have a journalist who has intentionally or unintentionally sent out fake news in an article that an editor trusted to publish, that story will either be pulled down if it's usually in a company that, in a media company that has not yet understood the necessity of maybe first putting out a correction or an error term. So as I was saying, the issue of laziness in journalism, let me just give you an example here in Rwanda, right? We do have very many journalists who want to become investigative journalists, and they really push, they go to every door and look for information. But the number one problem is access to information here in Rwanda. If you want to do a big story, the one that Sylvie wants to read, and she's very happy with all the sources covered, it's a story that will take you a month to write, and you're going to have to work you're going to have to get very, very good sources. And from my experience, it's only a few journalists who can verify, who can get the ability to verify something they have said from 2 or 3 sources before they publish something. We do have that problem of access to information. So if government can put up, can stand firm on their promise of opening up, and then they give us all this information so that we can inform the public better, I am very sure that lots of the information that lacks context, that you keep saying, or that you keep seeing, or the false connections in some headlines you see, some false context in some news that you see, you will probably be happier. So I think the most pressure that we need to ask the public, to help journalists to do, is to put pressure on the government and public and other institutions to find a way to make it easier for access to information to be actually practical, because it's a very, very, very important thing. There are so many stories, so many things that are happening right now in our country that we don't know, just because access to information is really, really low. Yet there is a law that accepts us to do that. So I hope I've been understood. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Ibambe, if you're there, are you there?
Yes, here I am. Yes, here I am.
Okay. So I actually wanted to ask you a few things. Sylvie said that in Rwandan journalists, they have this kind of, they are lazy. Sometimes the fake news rise from being lazy, and some journalists are lazy. They don't invest much energy into getting facts and all that. And Ivan is saying most of the number one reason as to why some stories don't come out well is because sometimes they lack this information. They are not given this information by some people that they really intend to get information from. And some other speakers have said a lot. I can't repeat it all, but you've been listening. What do you have to say?
Yes, Sylvie, she's right. She's right. And I think I mentioned that before. Because if you look at the level of plagiarism in media, I think that is a proof of how lazy some or most of media practitioners are. So you will find
similar articles, similar mistakes being published in almost all media media outlets. So that's the only proof. I mean, that's a simple one that they are somehow lazy, if I can say. But it is something that is also associated with financial financial constraint of the media in general, which is also another big issue in our media sector. So, like, not everyone has a means to go on field to collect data, to verify, to collect interviews, to do, yeah. So what is easier, okay, for maybe these online media practitioners is just to copy and paste from the interface on their website and republish it without verifying, without proof. So it is there. There is that kind of unprofessionalism. I'm not saying, financial constraints cannot be like an excuse, because also whether you economically weak or not, so you have to perform professionally. It cannot be an excuse, but it's one of the factors if we try to analyze the issue. The same applies, but that's not for the online media only, because this also applies for mainstream media, the print, radio, televisions. Look at these talk shows, this morning talk shows, these press reviews in radio and televisions. So they do not collect any information. They wake up in the morning, they go on TV or radio station studio, they read what others have been publishing, of course, sometimes without verifying whether it is true or not. So, and they read all the whole stories. Then I was wondering, so if maybe the person who is publishing online, let's say Kihe Museke, whoever, has invested some money just to publish an article, and of course, when he's going for marketing, he'll be selling the traffic that he is having. And radio A, B, C, D, E, they are reading the article. So reading the whole articles from the website, that means no one will go and visit that website because someone has read the article for him or her, maybe from his car, whatever. Read. So the issue will be, how is maybe the author or the person who really invested in that particular article, how is he going or is she going to get back his money he invested or she invested in? I was once in Ghana for a study tour on media regulation. So they have got like a good model in Ghana. By that time, I think it's back 2015, if I recall. If I remember well. In Ghana, if you are a media practitioner on a radio presenter, and you are maybe doing press review in the morning show, you cannot read beyond article, the title of the article and what we call lead, the introductory part of an article. You can, if you go beyond that, you commit plagiarism, and ethically you can be liable for breaking that. So, and of course that's why I was saying that, like for example, our code of ethics now is silent about that. So, okay, we say plagiarism, you should quote where you got information from. But like, imagine if I quote someone who has invested a lot of money to publish an article, so quoting him, is it or her, is it enough? that kind of recognition, is it now? So they were right saying that our media practitioners are lazy. They do not maybe invest much time doing fact checking, collecting information, because one, and professionalism, maybe education level, that character, but also I'm bringing another factor of finance, I mean economy.
But someone is asking that does laziness lead to fake news? Does laziness in journalism result into fake news?
Yes. Actually, if you are lazy media practitioner, you cannot verify. So if someone have spread or have published like a fake news, and just without verifying it or whatever, then you are going to republish it, and maybe it has been published from a platform that is not even media. I mean, then you as media practitioner, you are going now. It's like a lazy media practitioner can legalize or formalize a fake news, and now it becomes very dangerous, because people who believe in what a media practitioner or media outlet is publishing, and once it is published in that particular media outlet, it's kind of maybe formalizing or confirming that what was fake news is now news, and it is not the case in that scenario. So of course that laziness, it is fueling the fake news.
Now it's 8:30. I see it's becoming late. I was saying that maybe we can round up and have the closing remarks from our speakers about our topic, and then we remind you that every Friday we have a space where we discuss different issues that affect you and that are worth speaking about, where we bring experts to discuss these issues and help us understand them more. So Johnson, is your network clear? So I just wanted Ivan, your closing remarks on our topic, and then next is Sylvie and Chris, and then we'll have Ibambe closing remarks. I see someone wanted to say something. Let me hear from this person, and then we do the roundup. Maya Lep, Eo, are you there? I see someone called Maya Lep. I gave you the mic. If you really had something to say, please. The floor is yours. Has disappeared. Okay, let me see.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. In regards to closing remarks, for real, we need to rework on our laws, so we accommodate this new trend, social media, online media. That is one, and of course, we should put in place a policy that can play a role to effectively deal with issues related to fake news, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. Because even if these concepts are not new, the way ICT, social media are affecting them, for real, need particular attention. Also, we need to focus on media information literacy, not for our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ibambe. Ivan, can we have your closing remarks on this topic of today? Are we facing fake news out there, and what is that?
Thank you. Thank you very much. My closing remarks, I think I'm going to stick to the point I have been saying since the beginning of the show. Number one, people or institutions that are supposed to be fighting fake news should actually do their work. That includes media and the government and maybe corporate institutions, although they don't have a legitimate interest to fight fake news. They also have an obligation, and moral obligation to do so. We need to find we need to people, not just journalists, but the government needs to start giving information that is full, not quarter or half, to which in a way gives room for fake information to survive. For example, I can give an example today, yesterday, when Mr. Bamorichi was suspended. Such high-profile suspensions or dismissals or arrests, they need to, the government, RIB, police, they need to have a press conference or give out a statement explaining why he was arrested or what are the crimes he's charged with, and with some specifics, instead of just giving a vague statement. He was suspended, pending, and these are the crimes he's suspected of, and then we all have to wait for a trial, for us to get information, and then the police spokesperson or the spokesperson has been told not to give further information. I think it's a bit unfair.
But are we pushing to have those details, and maybe somewhere it doesn't work, that for us having the trial now?
Yes. I totally say 100%. I am the RIB spokesperson. If he can correct me if I'm wrong, he probably got 1,000 calls from journalists trying to get at least verifiable or official information about what are the circumstances under which that minister was arrested, or why he's under house arrest, for example, and not arrested like any other people, or what corruption is it? Is it what Becca saying on Twitter that Merab was arrested also? Why hasn't RIB said anything about that? All that stuff, like they basically literally do it almost intentionally to mislead people, to mislead the public, and then and some unscrupulous journalists will just use the journalists or even individuals will use the space that such institutions have created to disseminate fake news, and later you come and then you start to blame the journalists. I know that as investigative journalists, we also have a role to do our background. I'm not saying that we should be getting information on a silver platter, but I'm saying that there is information that has to be given to the public so that the journalists can do further work. But there is some information you don't have to do investigation about, like why was he arrested? On what day was he arrested? What are the conditions for his house arrest? All those things are supposed to be given to the public before the journalists can actually do some background digging onto his maybe other scandals and stuff like that. That's one role the government has to play. As for journalists and editors and media and professional journalists, there's only one role we need to play, and that is to make sure that every single line of every story that we've written is fact. It's facts. The name, you've got it correct. As Sylvie was saying, you have a source that you're quoting, even if it's anonymous, you mention it clearly. All your sources have to be at least clear, so that you don't leave any room for you to be attacked or for the story to be quashed as fake news. Even when you may be doing a good service, sometimes if you do a story shoddily, you give room for people to think that you actually misled them. So that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, we are having Le Pen, please, can you speak? Sorry, you come when we are ending our space, but you can have your say, then we continue with the closing remarks. Le Pen, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Apologies earlier, I was having some connectivity issues. First of all, I want to thank you all for having this space. This conversation is very much needed. I wanted to offer some food for thought. For the past 6 years, I up until recently had been working for Vice News here in New York. I am Rwandan and Canadian, but I have spent most of my life growing up back and forth between the African and American continents. I'm very, very passionate about not only our heritage celebration, but our cultural preservation. And having worked in media for quite some time now and decided to specifically pivot deeper into all things Web3 and blockchain for its decentralized nature, that's a different topic which I can tackle another time. But I wanted to humbly remind all of our Rwandan and just African journalists as a whole, on behalf of someone who has been part of the machine that generates a lot of this content. Oftentimes, we're hearing about the continent on when it's a larger, impactful scale. But when we're talking about a more localized level of the news, when it comes to your diaspora, people like me who are residing outside of our, background and families and first generation born outside of our home countries, we have a strong appetite and desire to remain connected to our home communities. And oftentimes, we're all relying on you. All these publications, which I won't name, that go a little bit more in depth as to localized news throughout the continent. But, unfortunately, when you're looking at the bigger publications, a lot of it is sensationalized outside of that world. So it's really, really important that you do look for these facts, that you continue to do this amazing investigative work and look for other outlets, be it creating your own platforms or decentralizing the information so that you're not necessarily confined by geographical laws. You have the freedom of being digital in your presence, so to speak. So I just wanted to say, keep up these conversations. Please keep fighting the good fight. What you create may seem very local to you, but it is impactful to your whole diaspora across the whole world. So these conversations, as well as, tackling fake news, is extremely important when you're looking at our own cultural preservation outside of the country. What legacy are we leaving behind? What historical data will be associated with your community? And so that data has to be vetted for, and it has to be protected at all costs. So what we used to do in oral history, now we're doing in all these beautiful ways. But I just want to salute you all and thank you for what you're doing, because we maybe don't often tell you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Delphine. Thank you so much. Be reminded that every Friday we have a space. Discussing on different issues affecting us here in Rwanda. So you should always be joining us on this platform every Friday.
I look forward to returning. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you so much. Sylvie, your closing remarks as we round up.
Yes, thank you again. I think I want to make a clarification about what I said, intellectual dishonesty and laziness. Someone asked me a question if laziness leads to fake news. So there are people who publish fake news knowing it's fake news, really with certain intention. Let me talk about Deborah Kayembe. She's a professor to university, and she one day wake up and say the genocide in Rwanda she's a lawyer. She knows that the genocide has to have a targeted group. That is something we call intellectual dishonesty, because she knows what she was supposed to do. And she says, oh, President Kagame is the one who is the cause of the genocide. And she knows very well. That is intellectual dishonesty. She's a professor with so many PhD, whatever, and legal background. So that is intellectual dishonesty. She is giving a fake news, knowing really itself that we call it intellectual dishonesty. So when I said laziness can lead to give fake news, because I was lazy to go and get facts. Someone woke up one day and said, there is a news I saw, it was really a tweet by a journalist saying that just morning like this, the Ministry of Education has been empowering girls, not boys, and with the intention of making sure that girls outnumber boys. That I remember, I need to, because I screenshot that tweet. You understand? That journalist could have just gone to the Minister of Education, pay a motor, and get the right information. And I remember us asking, did you reach the Minister of Education? Did they give you data and statistics? Did you understand what is going on in pre-primary, in primary, secondary, and wherever? So for me, intellectual dishonesty is really deciding not to go to the source and bring it. No, I mean laziness. So laziness is not only in journalism, it's with all of us. We want to give news, to be the first to give news, but not really having the courage of the time or anything to go to. Another thing I said, maybe which was misunderstood, was I am seeing less and less the willing for people to cross-check their article. When I'm writing a subject, you will not come and lie to us that you are the first person discovering family planning, for example. Family planning is a subject which has been talked about for years with different people in different backgrounds. So when you are bringing a news on family planning, what we want really innovation in journalism. It's that thing I was saying, give yourself some energy to tell us also about what others have talked about, how it has improved over the years. It's that thing I was saying, I'm really seeing less and less energy in people looking the right information, packaging it for people. But also, we are fast to say breaking news, but we should aim to be fast to publish a good article, because we have that capacity and power. It's just a matter of feeling disturbed that I'm giving news which are incomplete to this public. Because Rwandan, now with time, we are aware, n'umuturage ntabwo wagenda gupfa kumubesha umubwira ibintu runaka aramanza yakubaza kugira ibyazi. So journalists today in Rwanda need to know that the Rwandan population is now, if it's a certain level of maturity, even anyone who did not go to school, hari ibintu byinshi hazi, for example, on the government, kuri service, abona. So kuza wowe ukamuzanira amakuru, ugomba kumenya ko atari wo wa mbere, ahubwo wowe umuzanira amakuru ari analyze, ari backs up, afite na comparison ku yandi. That is what I wanted to say. And I did not say people are lazy. I did not say people are lazy. I said it's what we call intellectual laziness, intellectual dishonesty. Because I may not be lazy in my normal life, in the work I do. I have, because when it comes to that thing of writing, we need also to know that our culture, maybe is something I didn't touch. Even me, I'm comfortable talking, but if you put me writing there, maybe that is the reason. Maybe this recommendation can go back also to the Minister of Education. How do we improve our education system so that we grow up knowing that we cannot give any article, any data, anything without quoting certain things? Because we see it. I have been, anyway, privileged, for example, to mentor people, memoir. You will find also students are not referencing their memoir as should be. Maybe this conversation, Arafat, needs to lead us to something. What are the concrete, positive feedback we need to give? If journalists are not quoting, maybe no one taught them that. So how do we now change this? This should be among the recommendations we easy spaces, and when we are talking, we need to arrive at the point we say, okay, now tumaze kuvuga ibi bibazo turabona byagakemutse. At the end of the day, as Rwandan, we are the people again to feed our system, to our if it's system of education, if it's agriculture, on how to improve. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sylvie. I'm receiving quite a number of people requesting to speak. I have so far 4 people asking me to speak. I don't know what to do. We are out of time, and I can see Jackie has joined. Jackie, you can say something, and as we round up, because you knew the topic.
Hey, sorry I joined in late. I was in a place with no network. I hope.
Sure.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me in the space. Sorry I came a bit late. Well, on the issue of fake news, I like to say that as mainstream journalists, professional journalists, it's our responsibility to direct people to credible news sources, because we are in a position to distinguish between what is fake, what is genuine, what is credible, what should be trusted. But maybe other people do not have the same wisdom and ability. So you, Arafat, Ivan, and all the other journalists on the space, we should be able to direct people where they will find the right information. It is unfortunate that some of us take part in spreading fake news. We don't do due diligence. We do not even go deep in trying to find out this story has been published by this person. What other story has this person done? Who knows this person? Who is this person's source? I think as a radio journalist, as a print journalist, before you put out something that you are purportedly quoting another person, you should have verified. So it is upon us to help the ones that are not in journalism to know what is to be trusted and what is not to be trusted. And now with the social media advent, we have the power in a lot of wrong hands. Because initially, years ago, it was the prerogative of that radio presenter or that TV presenter to send out a communication. But right now, we see news being broken by other people on social media, and it gets to us as journalists later on. So for sure, the environment is different. The media is not as it used to be, not as we used to know it. So there's a lot to be done to make sure that we in the mainstream media are not taken for granted and do not rush to break news that we have not yet verified, because we cannot afford to be like the other, social media journalists, street journalists, quote. That is my contribution, Arafat.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
Many thanks, Jackie. I think, could you, each and everyone raising hand, maybe use 1 minute to, parting shots, just because we are running out of time. What do you think, Arafat?
No, we've actually, after saying that we've run out of time, they all put down their hands. Now, I think we can close. Chris did not give his closing remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Briefly,
just 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Briefly, journalism is about public interest. We are in the industry to offer what people need to know. As journalists, let's be eager to serve our watchdog role and play the same even in debunking any form of information disorder. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we can close the space. We can close the space for those who actually had raised up their hands and did not have time to speak. Please, we are very sorry for that. But next time, it's always every Friday, the same time, we have the same space. discussing on different issues. And next Friday, we are coming up with another topic, another burning topic. And I think, Johnson, you're ready to be there on Friday.
Yeah, sure. This discussion that we should keep on and offline. And of course, every Friday, starting 6 p.m., we'll be there. Don't hold those thoughts. Keep them coming. Let's keep the discussion.
Mr. Jean-Paul Ibambe and Mr. Ivan, Mr. Chris, Sylvie, Jackie, and Le Pen, everyone who has been actually listening in since we started the space. See you next time. See you on Friday, the same time, and we will notify you about the topic before then. Thank you so much, guys.